Alexander, also known as Alec, Vern Bruce, the grandson of once mayor of Lawrence, Alexander Bruce, was born on May 3, 1894, in Seattle, Washington. Alec's dad, David, worked for the Union Trunk Line of the Northeast GE Company and later would take part in the Alaska Gold Rush in 1898. When he was unsuccessful, his family moved back to Lawrence and lived at 1018 Essex Street. Alex graduated from the A.B. Bruce School in 1907, Phillips Academy in 1911, and then Harvard University in 1915. He returned to Phillips Academy as an instructor in mathematics and assistant in chemistry. Even before the United States entered the Great War, Bruce left for France with 22 students to form the Andover Ambulance Service to transport wounded French soldiers to medical facilities.
Alec Bruce. Alec thought that he would be more used if he joined the military and thus joined the Lafayette Escadrille, which was the French Air Force unit and consisted of American volunteer pilots flying fighters. Alec was commissioned as first lieutenant in January 1918 and then was transferred to the 94th Aero Pursuit Squadron. The 94th Aero Squadron was an air service unit that was formed in Kelly Field, Texas on August 20, 1917. This unit was part of the 1st Pursuit Squadron. The 94th Aero Squadron fought on the Western Front, and after the war, it would become the 94th Fire Squadron. This unit was one of the first pursuit squadrons to reach the Western Front, and thus became one of the most famous, and was highly publicized in American print media. This symbol for the 94th was a hat around the ring, and the pilots flew Newport 28 and Spad 13. The 94th Aero Pursuit Squadron had many notable air aces, including Eddie Rickenbacker, who is considered the most decorated and successful air ace during the war, with 26 aerial victories and getting the Medal of Honor. Douglas Capel, who was the first American-trained pilot to become an air ace, and Rahul Lufberry, who attained 17 aerial victories before dying by jumping out of a fiery aircraft. The squadron shot down around 70 enemy aircraft altogether. In a letter to his dad, Alec talks about the training he did, and in part of the letter, he talks about an assignment in the morning for the final day of flying before they had to go to France. Alec says, "Leaving the dark earth beneath, the machine plunged into the clouds. I could see nothing about me but this vapor. It had seemed white at first by comparison, but there was little light in it, and its color was that of snowflakes at dusk. After what seemed a long time, I noticed a slight new brightness above. This grew stronger and stronger until I emerged into full sunlight. On entering the clouds, the moisture had begun to condense on my goggles, the wings and the whole machine. It was soon dripping steadily from the upper wing before me. As I emerged, the scene resembled nothing so much as a warm day in early spring, with the sun shining brightly on the melting snow and the eaves dripping merrily. I had often heard of fellows making landings on the clouds, that is, gliding down to them, redressing and settling as they would on the ground. I thought to try the same thing, but the results were unsatisfactory. At a distance or from a height, the cloud billows seemed sharply defined and outlined. At close range, however, I found it was impossible to see so plainly I could never judge within a couple of feet. The illusion of solidarity was gone. The weather is ideal. The birds are singing, and the leaves are beginning to come out on the trees. It will soon be the anniversary of my arrival in France. I never had seen and never expect to see anything so absolutely beautiful as my first view of France appeared to me on that early morning in May." In a letter published to the Evening Tribune, Alexander Vern Bruce talks about his experience in the war. He says, "A few nights ago, I saw one of the prettiest and most varied displays of aeropyrotechnics that could be imagined. French planes were up and they were indicating their position, directions, and velocities by frequent fuses, which are called flares. Bosch, which are German planes, were doing the same. They were watching the firing below and indicating the position of the enemy's batteries by dropping fuses upon them. Converging searchlights were trying to locate these planes, and Chernobyl was bursting around them. Star shells were ascending from the trenches and casting a black glare for miles around. We are now tasting the real horrors of war. Our regular cook has gone on permission, which is leave, and another has taken his place. This noon there were 2 flies, several assorted bugs, a few leaves, and some cinders on my plate. Also some meat and potatoes. A regular feature of our mess is the weekly attempt of the French commissary to induce us to eat treep. We file by the kettle holding our noses with a great show of disgust. The cook tries to slip some of it onto the plates of the unexpecting, but we set up a howl. I haven't seen a loaf of white bread in France. We get a most delicious and nutritious kind which comes in large round loaves, stamped with the date of baking. Alexander Burn Bruce died in action on August 17, 1918, when he brushed the wing of a friendly plane and crashed into a forest while he was engaging in combat with German planes. This is a letter to Bruce's dad about the death of his son. Dear Mr. Bruce, you have undoubtedly already been informed officially of the death of your son, Alexander B. I am glad that it is not for me to break the news to you. The details of his glorious death may offer you consolidation, as I have it from his friends who were flying with him at the time in an engagement with some Germans. Alec and one other pilot of the patrol brushed wings. Alec started to fall completely out of control of his machine, but after falling 1,000 meters, he regained partial control and made a tight spiral during the remaining 250 meters. The pilot above noticed that he was trying to spiral into an open field, but he missed that and landed in a forest. His machine struck some tall trees nose first and at an angle of about 30 degrees. The machine inevitably fell to the ground on its back. The doctor who examined him stated that his death was due to a broken neck. He was not mangled in any way. He was buried shortly after, within a day, and in as good a manner as circumstances would permit. I am enclosing a map showing the exact location of the grave near the Frieux de la Creux. The negative enclosed was the last photo taken of him. It was taken several days before his death. I will send a negative of the photo taken of the grave as soon as it reaches me from Paris. You will receive his effects in due course through the quartermaster's department. I am also enclosing the memorial which I found in his trunk when I made an inventory of his things, in order that you may feel sure that all his wishes were attended to. If there is anything at all that I can do for you, Mrs. Bruce, if there is anything which you do not understand and want explained, if I can be of help, I should be pleased to lend my assistance. I have been with Alex since August 1917, and in that time I feel that I learned to know him and appreciate him. Everybody who knew him recognized him as one of the cleanest, most straightforward chaps in the crowd. He was always jolly and accepted everything as a matter of course. Before joining the first pursuit group, someone mentioned that the percentage of casualties would be high and that the chances of getting through were slight. He replied, "I'm going anyway. Somebody must do it." Let me assure you, Mr. and Mrs. Bruce, that all the pilots of the group who knew him sympathize with you in your benevolent. Such a boy and such a friend is not met with every day. Most sincerely, Thomas F. Butts. Alec Burn Bruce was buried in Wasson American Cemetery and Memorial. The Alexander B. Bruce Square was built in his honor in 1925 and was located at the corner of Lowell and Milton Streets in Lawrence, Massachusetts.